But it just left me wanting more. I think my biggest issue with the Bills, obviously, they have a very talented roster. It was Super Bowl or bust this year. I think offensively, the thing I've said for 2 years is they got to figure out a way to take some of the pressure off the quarterback. Like come big games, he's got to do everything. He's got to throw it. He's got to run it. He's got to make every play. And sometimes that's a lot, especially for a guy that's still so young. So I think offensively, the offensive line needs to be a tick better. They got to figure out some semblance of a running game outside of Josh Allen. And they got to figure out why. Just ask this question why in a private moment. Why the turnovers in the red zone? I think that was the biggest issue for me. I get it trying to make plays and trying to be Superman because we know he's capable of that. But this year was a little bit different. And so I think if I'm Sean McDermott and I'm Brandon Beane, I got to address those issues. But for me, more importantly, after we get to the schematic things as far as running game and a different playmaker, I'm going to find out the mindset of the quarterback. Why the turnovers in the red zone? Because to me, that was something that was a little bit different than we were used to.
So you can only do so many things, as you know, in an off season to make your team better. In your mind, what would be the priorities for this team looking at the draft and, of course, free agency?
Well, I'm going to try to find an additional playmaker on the offense, preferably two, a wide receiver and a running back. Again, find me a way to run the football, whether that's schematically, whether that's a different running back. I thought Cook was really good. He was young. So if you like Cook, that means you got to upgrade the offensive line a little bit. And I think Stephon Diggs has proven he's a legitimate number one. I'm not sure Gabe Davis has proven he is a legitimate, consistent two. Anytime you get Cole Beasley off the street late in the season and he starts contributing, that means there's a void as far as a slot guy. So I think they have to find a couple of additional pass catchers, especially if you're not going to run the football. Like if you're not going to run the football or make any attempts to run it, then you got to go heavy into this pass catchers. You need a couple of wide receivers and say, okay, Josh, it's all on you. I don't think that's the way to go. If Brandon were to ask me, I would say upgrade the offensive line and find me a legitimate number two receiver. And maybe that slides Gabe Davis down to three. And if you can talk Cole into another year, maybe. If not, then you need to find a legitimate guy that's going to be consistent inside.
Von Miller's injury opened up a lot of discussion about the pass rush once again, which was a problem last year. And with him out of the lineup, it really declined in ways that I don't know that they were anticipating, but certainly a problem. So how do you see that being addressed on the assumption that Von has a ways to go to come back from that serious knee injury?
Well, it's the elephant in the room because come playoff time or come big game, you got to get Burrow, you got to get Mahomes, you got to get Herbert on the ground. Like somehow you got to get those guys on the ground. And excuse me, for me, Von Miller showed you game one against the Rams. Hey, I'm here. Here's what I can do. I can be your closer. I can be Mariano Rivera. All right. Once he got hurt, some of the other guys didn't quite step up. Russo, Boogie Basham. I expected another step from Ed Oliver. I got a little bit of that. I know he was slowed early on by the ankle. But even with that, I think he can be a top 5 defensive tackle in this league. I still think there's some untapped potential there. But other than going and signing another high-priced free agent, you got to trust the guys that you drafted, and you got to develop them. You got to get those guys to step up because money-wise, it doesn't make sense, okay? Because if you're going to go out and sign another Von Miller type, so you're going to go out and spend another 50, 60, 70, 80 million bucks, then are you going to sign Edmonds back? Because Edmonds, I know, is going to want some money pretty quick. He is, to me, he is a phenomenal talent to be so young. What are you going to do with wide receiver? What are you going to do at the cornerback position? I know you drafted some guys. Tre'Davious White, do you think he can get back to being an elite level corner? May you want to reallocate some of those funds? So I think there are some questions and some really honest questions that they got to get honest answers to. And what happens is when you get veteran players that have been there for a long time, Vic, there's a sentimental value to it. There's this guy's been here for a while. When you look at the safeties, Poyer, Hyde, and those guys, and Tre'Davious White, do you need all three of those guys, or can you go young? Let's look at what Kansas City did. Kansas City, other than I forget the guy's name, number 38, Snead, other than Snead, they had a bunch of rookies in the secondary. So can you take that model, reallocate some of those funds, and go young in the secondary? I like the young corner from Florida, Elam. I like some of the other guys that they've drafted. Those guys are talented, but guess what, Vic? Those guys are also pretty cheap right now as you try to take advantage of this Super Bowl window. So I think you got to have some tough conversations about how you want your team built. In this league, you got to score points and you got to stop the other team from scoring points, passing and defending the pass. So I need pass rushers. I need guys that can catch the football. I need guys that can block. And so those will kind of be the priorities as far as I'm concerned. And if you're going to go that way, that means you got to make some tough decisions with some guys that have probably been there a long time. Even though the salary cap went up $18 million this year, there's still some tough decisions that those guys have to make.
Given the multiple areas that do need to be addressed in order for the Bills to upgrade themselves, based on what you saw, especially from the Chiefs in winning that Super Bowl, how much of a gap is there between the Bills and the Chiefs and or any other team, Cincinnati, at those teams that are at the top end of the AFC?
I don't think the gap's that big. I think the gap is in glaring places, though. So if you were to say, let's look at quarterback. Yes, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in football, but you give me Josh Allen, I'm going to sleep pretty good at night. You know, like he's a guy that's proven he can get it done. And I'm not really concerned about the turnovers. I just want to know why, because we've seen Mahomes have a bunch of turnovers also. I think where it becomes a glaring hole is when Mahomes is on the field, defensive coordinator Leslie Frazier, Sean McDermott, they don't like to blitz a ton. Okay, it's that sit back, we're going to play zone coverage, we're going to make you go the long route. And you can't argue. Like they've been maybe the top defense in football the last 2 years. But the issue becomes this. When I got to get a stop, when it's 3rd and 8, and I got to get the quarterback on the ground, when it's the 4th quarter and I have to create a turnover. So those are the things that I'd be concerned about. And again, I'll give Brandon a lot of credit. He tried to address that by signing Von Miller, However, Von got hurt. I just don't know if you got to blow it up. I think ultimately the gap is not as big as people think it is. It's just in a glaring spot. And the spot becomes this. When Patrick is on the field or Joe Burrow is on the field or Justin Herbert is on the field defensively, I would ask this question. Do I have enough playmakers on defense? I'm not saying names. Do I have enough playmakers? And if I do, fine. If I don't, then I need to get some more playmakers. I'll give you a prime example. Milano is a playmaker. He makes plays in the pass game, in the run game. He's not the biggest guy. He's not the most athletic guy, but he is a playmaker. Edmonds makes plays. Up front, now that Von Miller is gone, who are your playmakers? In the secondary, who are your playmakers, post Tre'Davious White ACL? So right now, defensively, if you're really being honest defensively, you're going to start 11 guys with only 3, maybe 4 playmakers. And I think that's what you got to say, okay, if I'm going to go against the Chiefs when they got Kelsey and Mahomes out there and they got Kadarius Toney now and they got an offensive line, let's face it, Vic, that offensive line that the Chiefs got is really, really good. Okay, so they're built the right way up front. How am I going to deal with that? When the Bengals come in town, okay, how am I going to deal with Chase and Burrow? And I don't know whether they're going to keep Higgins aboard, but they'll have one of those guys and Mixon, okay? I got to be able to match up. Oftentimes you start with, can I win my division? Check. I think that's a pretty good sample size with Buffalo being able to win the East, although the Jets have gotten better. Miami is better, but they're still not in Buffalo's level. So once you feel comfortable in your division, now what do you do next? Can you beat the upper echelon, which is Cincinnati, which is Kansas City? Those are the 2 teams you got to beat. And so you got to build your team in mind, thinking about, okay, these are the teams I got to beat. And so I got to be able to cover Travis Kelce, and I got to be able to get Mahomes and Burrow and Herbert. I got to be able to get those guys on the ground.
Perfect. This was phenomenal, Booger. Thank you so much. I appreciate it greatly.
Anytime, Vic. I've always respected you, man. Listen to you anytime you're on the NFL channel. I think you are one of the consummate professionals. And when it comes to Buffalo sports, I think you're honest. I think you're fair. And hopefully the people that listen and read and talk about you feel the same way, man. Much respect for me, buddy.